Why so serious? What's good, y'all? Lonnie Appleton here. If you have a couple of minutes, we are talking sensitivity. I left off my last video where I was having a conversation with Angel where she was eating a piece of cake, and I was like, hey, if you are truly worried about your image or your figure, you would not be eating that cake. And before I said that to her, I said, I'm not delivering this to you any other way but in love, because if, as your mother, how are you going to learn about calorie intake? How are you going to learn about eating sugar and things that are just going to break down into your body? And actually what that cake is doing is killing you. It's delicious, but it's killing you. The streets aren't going to tell you that, so it's my job to tell you that. It's my job to pay attention how I deliver that message. But the message will be delivered. Because like I said in the last video, I'm my child's first teacher. I'm not going to let the streets be my child's first teacher and then I got to try to reach her. That one was cold-blooded. That one had meaning and it rhymed. You coming through with the meaning and the rhymes? Anyway, what I'm saying is, I said what I need to say to her, and I asked her, I checked in after I said it, because I explained to her that I wasn't coming at her. I was just trying to give her information and knowledge. I was like, sis, you're 10 years old. Your metabolism, your genetic makeup, you will never have to worry about what you eat. Now, if you want to keep your organs and stuff from developing fat around them and, stuff that maintain an alkaline body versus acidic body and how sugar breaks down and kills you that way, you will have to watch what you eat and work out. But if you're worried about what you look at, like in the mirror, your genetic makeup, you ain't never going to have to worry about that. And trust me, she ain't got that slim body from her thick body ass mama. So I explained to her that I wasn't coming at her, and she was able to express to me that she felt that she was receiving information from me versus me trying to get on her head. But she take a few more bites of her cake. I was like, shoot, if you don't eat it, I do, because my fat ass shouldn't eat it either, but I'ma go for her. I ate hers and Caden's. Nah, I didn't. I just took a bite of Caden's, and I left hers alone because there were flies on it, so ooh. So anyway, Dre's looking at Angel because she's crying, because why so sensitive? And he's like, what's going on? And I tell him, and he's like, yeah, because blah, 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 blah. And I was like, see, that was unnecessary. And he was like, what? I'm just saying. And I'm like, but that wasn't necessary to say. And he was like, man, y'all just so sensitive. I was like, I hate when people who say some offensive stuff look at the person who is offended by them and attack them by calling them sensitive. No, you're just an asshole. And people have feelings and people have emotions. They're allowed to express those feelings and emotions. And just because their reaction to your joke fell flat, they're not being sensitive. You're just an asshole. And I'm not calling my husband an asshole. I'm just saying we need to be aware of the things that come out of our mouth. If it's not necessary, don't say it. Just so you could turn around and say, oh, you're just sensitive. No, you're just an asshole. And y'all, I'm about to help y'all figure out y'all's kids real quick. What's good, y'all? Lonnie Appleton here. If you have a couple of minutes, we are discussing some practical family healing advice. I was sitting and I was watching Angel yesterday, and it all finally clicked. As we are raising our kids, we watch them go through these different phases, and Angel is in the preteen phase. She's in the trying to find herself phase. Her therapist or family advocate, I don't know what the lady's title is, but she told me that Angel, being the middle child, is caught between trying to be like the older sibling, the 18, 19, 23-year-olds, and she's caught between trying to be like the younger kids, the 5 and the 4-year-old, because the 5 and the 4-year-old are getting attention, the older kids are getting attention, and here Angel is caught in the middle and she's getting caught in the negative attention space. But a lot of her attention-seeking behaviors are results of trying to be here and trying to be here, all trying to identify who she is here. And I want to talk about this because I'm not the only one who's dealing with a preteen who is trying to find their identity. Not only are they trying to find their identity, they're also trying to walk the path that has laid before them, which is the expectations of how someone should conduct themselves within your family. First, let's go ahead and throw that away, because by doing that expectation, you are telling your child your individuality doesn't matter here. And now they're left to not practice being their individual self in front of you, therefore you can lead them and guide them through that. Like, yeah, that's cool, but let me show you how to refine that a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And they're also left to go be their authentic self out there in the world. So then when your kid comes back and they said your kid did this, and you're like, my child would never. Your child would, your child did, and you would know if you allowed them to be authentic. So Bailey and I, we're all intuitives. If you haven't picked up on, we're all intuitive. Just depends on what our clairs are. So Bailey and I very quickly picked up on the fact that Angel is acting. She watched these YouTube videos. She wants to be like the YouTube girls. And so she's like, oh my God, just like the YouTube characters, right? And that's not me mocking my kid. That's me mocking the YouTube characters. And my kid acts like the YouTube characters. So kind of hand in hand, but still, case in point is stop acting. But here's where the help comes in, because I was watching my daughter yesterday and I realized she is choosing archetypes. She is choosing different characters to assume. And every single character she chooses is a troubled character. Why? Because troubled people get attention. People who are doing great, they get shrugged off. Which kitten's gonna get more attention? The kitten that's sitting there purring, or the kitten over there who's broken? And that's all our kids are. They're just broken kittens trying to get attention. And if we only pay our kids attention when they're a problem, they're gonna keep being a problem. They're gonna keep choosing problematic identities. And now that we know better, we can do better. We are still talking about figuring our kids out. What's good, y'all? Lonnie Appleton here. If you have a couple of minutes, I have a couple of practical family healing advices, plural. A couple is plural. So we left off our last video talking about our kids choosing their identity, and a lot of times our kids are choosing troubled identities. Because when they're watching these movies, and because our kids who are choosing their archetype or their identities, they feel alone. And so now they're searching, who am I? And they're looking around them and they're like, well, I'm not this and I'm not this. But they identify with that dark, lonely kid. And what is the dark, lonely kid usually doing? Look, I was a dark, lonely kid, and you know what I did? I sat in my backyard by myself and played in the mud. And that just occupied me for hours. But now let's see what the dark, lonely kids are doing now. The dark, lonely kids are sitting in their rooms setting fires. Check. The dark, lonely kids are contemplating unaliving themselves. Check. The dark, lonely kid is going and doing things at their schools and other public places because that's what the dark, lonely kid on TV did. We are getting in front of that before we check that damn box. But what I'm saying is, our kids are sitting here and they're choosing their identities. And I realize how unsupported I have left Angel, because I was like, whatever it is that's going on in your head is a direct result of me not asking you what's going on in your head. Whatever's going on in your head, and if it's going unaddressed and you're allowed to create whatever narrative around this story you're telling yourself, is a direct result of my not coming to you and having a conversation and giving you the right things to put inside your head. See, I'm sitting here with my teenager because I'm thinking she's old enough to comprehend and to understand what's going on, right? But when I was sitting across the table from Angel yesterday, I was like, what positive things are you speaking to yourself? Do you even know to speak positively to yourself? And why the heck am I waiting until I feel that you are able to understand what I'm talking about to start teaching you how to have self-love? So it's in that moment yesterday I realized I really need to start sitting down with Angel and doing the work for her to be okay. It was in that moment I realized I need to stop thinking I need to pay somebody like a therapist to help my child when she has me. And yes, I believe that I have a heightened understanding of what the heck's going on in this world, but I think all of us can aid our children if we just sat down and said, hey, what goes through your head in a day? And our children feeling safe and secure enough to tell us what they're thinking. Guaranteed every child that has acted out violently thought about it first. And if they had someone in their life to talk to, that might save some lives.